The throne room of the obsidian palace stretched into darkness, its walls pulsing with bioluminescent veins that throbbed like a dying star. At its center sat Queen Lisa, the butcher of Andromeda, the devourer of worlds, the sovereign whose very name caused entire civilizations to silence their children at night. Her form was both beautiful and terrible, pale skin that seemed carved from moonlight, eyes that burned with the cold fire of collapsed suns, and a crown forged from the last remnants of the planets she had personally annihilated. Vin Diesel stood before her, hands casually tucked into the pockets of his worn leather jacket, a half-smile playing on his scarred face. "You're trying to scare me?" he said, and then he laughed. The sound echoed through the throne room like thunder in a cathedral. Every courtier, every guard, every trembling diplomat from the outer reaches froze. No one laughed in the presence of Queen Lisa. No one had laughed in her presence for 300 years. Not since she had taken the last person who dared mock her and turned him into a living statue. Conscious and screaming, for eternity, Lisa's fingers tightened on the armrests of her throne, her knuckles whitening. The bioluminescent veins in the walls flickered, responding to her rage. "You dare." Vin Diesel shrugged, taking a step closer. The guards raised their plasma rifles, but Lisa held up a hand, stopping them. She wanted to see where this human's audacity would lead him. In all her centuries of rule, in all her conquests across 57 galaxies, she had never encountered someone so brazenly foolish. "Look," Vin said, his voice calm and measured. "I've read the reports. The massacre of Kepler-4, the extinction event at Proxima Centauri, the way you turned the entire population of Zeta Reticuli into crystallized husks. Impressive resume. I'll give you that." He stopped a few feet from the throne's base, looking up at her with those infuriatingly steady eyes. "But here's the thing about fear, Your Majesty. I grew up on old Earth, before the evacuation. I grew up in the streets where you learned real quick that the scariest people were the ones who wanted you to be scared." Lisa leaned forward, her dress of shadow and starlight rippling around her. "You think I want your fear, human? I don't want it. I command it. I am fear itself." "Nah," Vin said, shaking his head. "You're a tyrant with a reputation. There's a difference." The temperature in the throne room dropped by 20 degrees. Ice began forming on the walls. Lisa stood, and as she did, she seemed to grow, her form expanding until she towered over the human, a colossus of rage and power. Her voice became a chorus of 1,000 screaming souls. "I have ended civilizations older than your species. I have drunk the light from suns and bathed in the tears of dying gods." Vin Diesel didn't flinch. He didn't move. He just stood there, waiting for her tantrum to end. When Lisa's form finally settled back to its normal proportions, breathing heavily, he spoke again. "You done?" She stared at him, genuinely confused for perhaps the first time in centuries. "What? What are you?" "I'm just a guy," Vin said. "A guy who got sent here on a diplomatic mission that everyone assumed was a death sentence. You know what they told me before I left? They said, go talk to Queen Lisa, and if you survive 5 minutes, humanity gets to keep existing." He pulled out a small flask from his jacket and took a sip. "Want some? It's from Earth. Real whiskey, none of that synthetic stuff." Lisa descended from her throne slowly, like a predator approaching prey. But there was something different in her movements now, curiosity mixed with her rage. She took the flask from his outstretched hand, their fingers briefly touching. She felt warmth there, real warmth, not the cold calculation she was used to. She drank. The whiskey burned down her throat, and for a moment, she remembered what it was like to feel something other than hatred and power. "Why aren't you afraid?" she asked quietly, the throne room's audience straining to hear. Vin Diesel smiled, a real smile this time. "Because I've got nothing left to lose. Everyone I loved is gone. My planet's a memory. And you know what I figured out on the long flight here? Fear only works when you're trying to hold onto something. When you've already lost everything, what's one more ending?" Lisa studied his face, searching for the lie, for the deception. But there was none. Just a weary, honest human who had somehow found peace in his own destruction. "Besides," he added, "I read something about you in the archives. Before you were the butcher of Andromeda, you were Lisa Chen, a colony ship captain. You lost your entire crew to the Void Plague. You watched them die, one by one, and you couldn't save them. Lisa's eyes widened. How do you? Because I recognized it, Vin said softly. The look in your eyes. It's the same one I see in the mirror. You're not cruel because you're evil. You're cruel because you're in pain. And you've been in pain so long that you've forgotten any other way to be. For a long moment, silence reigned in the obsidian palace. Then, something impossible happened. A single tear rolled down Queen Lisa's cheek, glowing like a captured star. I'm tired, she whispered. Yeah, Vin said. Me too. He held out his hand. So here's my proposal. Instead of you destroying humanity, and me pretending to be scared, how about we just talk to tired people who've seen too much, sharing a drink? Lisa looked at his hand for a long time. 300 years of cruelty, of conquest, of being the monster everyone expected her to be. And here was this human, offering something no one else had in centuries, not submission, not fear, but understanding. She took his hand. Okay, she said. Let's talk. And in that moment, in the throne room of the galaxy's cruelest queen, something shifted. The guards looked at each other in confusion. The courtiers whispered in disbelief, because the human had done what no army, no weapon, no plea for mercy had ever accomplished. He had reminded the monster that she was once human too.